Years ago, when Osu was still young, some players discovered that they could use graphics tablets instead of a mouse as an effective peripheral for aiming. Since then, tablets have shared a rich history within the game over the better part of the past 2 decades, with all manner of tablets being used over that time. While it remains true that there are still players at every level of the game using mice and tablets made by various manufacturers, it has become an unshakable reality that Wacom has held a dynasty over the Osu tablet meta from the moment players first picked up a pen. And with the release of the 2025 Intuos Pro, Wacom have decided it's time to dust off their throne and appoint a new king of tablets. Earlier this year in February, Wacom released their redesigned Intuos Pro PTK-470 range. Naturally, as soon as I heard about this, I knew I had to get my hands on one immediately to see what it's all about. I picked up a Wacom PTK-470, aka the Intuos Small. But despite the name Small, providing up to 187 by 105mm in active area, this tablet is more than enough for almost anybody planning to use it for a game like Osu, unless you are a full area enjoyer, in which case the medium should be enough to suit your needs. I've been using this tablet for a little under a month now at this point, but my initial impression is that it is by far the best tablet I've ever had the chance to use for Osu. Any change I could think of that I would have wanted to make to the 2019 Intuos Pro Small, the PTH-460, that I was using previously, has been made. From a more uniform pen with a removable button cover, to a way slimmer form factor, and even having a 50% increase in polling rate, this tablet has it all. In the box, you get the Intuos Pro Small tablet, a manual which I did not read, the customizable Pro Pen 3, a pen holder, a USB-C cable, as well as extra parts for the customizable pen. The design of the PTK-470 is reminiscent to me of the first tablet I ever owned, which was the Wacom CTL-480, with the controversial decision to move the express keys back to the top of the tablet instead of having them at the side. While I do understand how this could be quite inconvenient for those wanting to use the tablet for digital art, I personally view this as a very welcome change for maximizing desk space, alongside the removal of the outside bezels, which were incredibly thick on the previous Intuos Pro models. The thing I love the most about this tablet, and honestly wasn't expecting, was just how slim it is. Especially when compared to the previous model. This tablet is just so comfy to rest your hand on and use. It's almost like it is barely there. In addition, the wedge design found on some of the early Intuos models has been reintroduced, and although it's not as substantial as it was on the old CTL-480 for example, a little bit of wedge is better than none, so that's a big plus in my books. The 2025 Intuos Pro range is compatible with a variety of pens, including but not limited to the previous generation of Pro pens, a handful of legacy pens, as well as a range of third-party pens that use EMR technology. So if you do want to move to the slimmer tablet without dropping your favorite pen on the way, that option is going to be available to you. But if you do want to get the most out of this tablet, then the included Wacom Pro Pen 3, aka the ACP 500, is going to be your #1 option. One of the first things you may notice about the Pro Pen 3 is how customizable the pen is. Out of the box, the pen comes with the option of 2 additional grips, an optional weight which I chose to remove, and 4 different options for either buttons or button covers, something that Osu players have lost sleep trying to achieve over the years. Configured without the outer grip, this pen is by far the slimmest I've ever used by Wacom, even when compared to their so-called Pro Pen Slim from the previous generation, which I used before this one. I have always found slimmer pens to be easier to aim with, and have even tried sanding down pens with a lathe in the past to make them slimmer and more comfortable to hold. Shockingly, this pen might actually be too slim for even me, which I think might lead some players to use the Wacom One standard pen instead. This pen is very comfortable to hold, as it has a much more familiar design in comparison to some of the more used pens like the CTL-472's pen. However, the biggest downside of using the Wacom One standard pen is that you have to give up what is debatably the 2025 Intuos Pro's biggest advantage. The most popular tablets that have been used for OSU over the years have historically had about 133 Hz polling rate. This includes tablets like the Wacom CTL-480 and the Wacom CTL-472, which have respectively been the two most popular tablets over the history of the game. One step up from that, the previous generations of the Intuos Pro, including the PTK-470, have a 200 Hz polling rate, which is a substantial improvement from its predecessor. When used alongside the Pro Pen 3, the Wacom PTK-470 has a 300 Hz polling rate. I personally did not think I would notice as much of a difference as I did, but immediately after trying this tablet, the difference in smoothness and responsiveness felt instant. It is worth noting that I used this tablet alongside a 360 Hz refresh rate OLED monitor, so you might not get the same experience if you're using a monitor with a lower refresh rate. Unfortunately for some, 300 Hz polling rate is only achievable with the Pro Pen 3, so if you want to use a Pro Pen Slim for example, you'll be limited to 200 Hz. Or if you want to use the Wacom One standard pen, the limit will be 240 Hz, which may be a 60 Hz trade-off that some people decide to take. The Pro Pen 3 weighs approximately 9.1 grams with the grip and weight removed, which actually puts it on the lighter end of most pens. Needless to say, this is going to be ideal for the high-speed aim requirements of OSU. But some players may choose to keep the weight inside the pen, which will add an additional 3.5 grams and shift the balance towards the end a small amount. As I mentioned before, this pen is incredibly slim, coming in at 8.4 millimeters in diameter. I think grip tape is going to be a must for almost anybody when using this pen. And the uniform thickness alongside the flat button cover makes it all that much easier to get a perfect wrap without all that much effort. Moving back to the tablet itself, its thickness is also a serious strong point, coming in at 4mm at its thinnest to just 7mm at its thickest point. This blows the competition out of the water, with other tablets like the CTL-480 having a range from 7 to 10mm and the PTH-460's thickness being twice the starting thickness of the PTK-470 at a uniform 8mm. The difference in wrist comfort has been a blessing. The dimensions of the PTK-470 are 215 by 163 millimeters, with an active area of 187 by 105 millimeters. What shocked me is that despite the tablet itself being so much smaller than the PTH-460, which is 269 by 170 millimeters in size, the active area is actually substantially wider, with the PTH-460 having 160mm by 100mm, which is still more than enough for most OSU players. All of these specifications can be found on Cube's Wacom tablet master sheet, a link to which will be provided in the description. I'm going to keep the list of cons very brief, because there's really only one thing that I would change, and that's the max hover height, which upon first using the tablet, felt quite low coming from the previous generation of Intuos Pro tablets. But after a short while, I actually just got used to it, so it's by no means a deal breaker in my books. If I were to be incredibly pedantic, I could suggest that it'd be nice to have a pen that was made of a softer plastic, as it can be quite firm and can be sore if you have a tendency to squeeze your pen. But that's not going to be an issue for many people, as it can be avoided by using one of the grips that was included with the pen, or by just wrapping the pen in grip tape, which I think most players would want to do anyway. As for the notable pros, my favourite part about this tablet is definitely how thin and minimalistic the form factor is, especially after coming from a bulky tablet previously. The Pro Pen 3 is a solid improvement on the previous options, and I'm interested to see how others will respond to having such a slim pen available, as I don't think it's something others have really considered up to this point. Last, but certainly not least, the feature that no doubt will be the main selling point for this tablet for OSU players, 300Hz. The jump in polling rate is astonishing, and personally, to me it felt like moving from a 60Hz laptop screen to my first 144Hz monitor. When using this tablet, it feels like all of the dead weight from the previous generation of Intuos Pro tablets has been shed, and we've been left with a tablet that has been optimized specifically for OSU. And with the upcoming OSU Tablet Pro in collaboration with Wacom that's been kept tightly under wraps, it begs the question of whether OSU optimizations were something that Wacom actually considered while designing this new Intuos Pro line. Should you buy this tablet? Well, that depends. If you're someone like me that for years has struggled with little discomforts while using tablets, like the pen shape feeling wrong or the tablet being too thick, then the PTK-470 might just be the thing to help you move past those gripes and enjoy the game without having to think about all that noise. Buying this tablet is hardly going to turn you into the second coming of Cookeasy, but I don't think it's unrealistic to think that it could help you make small improvements and enjoy the game more. That said, this tablet is a premium product with a premium price, with mine costing €270. That's pretty steep when you consider the best player in the world uses a tablet you can buy new for 40. My belief is that if you have the money lying around and think that buying this tablet will be worth it, then go for it. If you've got other things you need to spend the money on, then I don't think you should get this tablet. And honestly, if you're a newer player to OSU, you probably shouldn't get this tablet until you've been around a bit longer and know that you're here forever. I'd suggest you get a more affordable option for now, like the CTL-472. To wrap up this review, put simply, yes, I think this is the best tablet you can currently use for OSU, and right now, nothing else even comes close.